Zillow had the data, the brand, and the algorithm, yet lost over $500 million in one of the most ambitious AI bets in tech history. In this episode, we break down how Zillow's AI misread the market and what every enterprise should learn from its collapse.
Let's talk about Zillow. You know them, right? The real estate tech giant. Well, they made this massive, incredibly ambitious bet on AI, thinking they could totally revolutionize how we buy and sell homes. But instead of changing the game changed them. It led to this spectacular, very public failure. And it's a fascinating story about what happens when a really smart algorithm runs headfirst into the messy, unpredictable real world. So what was the price tag for this little experiment? Over $500 million. Yeah. In just a matter of months, this dream of an AI-powered real estate empire just completely collapsed, forcing them to shut down their entire Zillow Offers business, just a staggering loss. So, what was the official line? Well, after the dust settled, Zillow CEO Rich Barton basically pointed the finger right at the technology. The message was pretty simple. Our AI, the algorithm we trusted to predict the future, it just failed. It wasn't smart enough to handle a housing market that was going haywire. And that, right there, is the million-dollar, or I guess $500 million question. Was this really just a case of a smart AI getting confused by a tricky market? Or was there something else going on? You know, blaming the code is always the easy answer. But as we're about to see, it is definitely not the whole story.
To really get what went wrong, we've got to rewind a bit. We need to look at why Zillow was so incredibly confident in its AI in the first place, and just how huge their $20 billion dream really was.
So the foundation of all this confidence was their sheer market dominance. And their secret weapon, of course, was the Zestimate. It's an AI model that had pretty much become a household name for figuring out what a house was worth. They had this massive database, a super low error rate for homes on the market. The Zestimate was a huge advantage. People trusted it. And Zillow figured, hey, we can build a whole new business on this. So in 2018, they made their big move. They launched Zillow Offers, which was built around this idea called iBuying, or instant buying. The concept was pretty simple, really. Use the power of the Zestimate to make instant, all-cash offers on people's homes, do a few quick repairs, and then flip them for a profit. It was a plan to turn all that data they had into direct control of the market.
And they were not thinking small here. The goal they set was to hit $20 billion in annual revenue in just 3 to 5 years. This wasn't some side project. This was a bet the entire company kind of move, designed to make Zillow the absolute center of the real estate universe.
With a goal that aggressive, the pressure was just immense. The company had to grow, and it had to grow insanely fast. But this growth at all cost strategy created a super high-stakes environment, where every tiny little error would get magnified. And this is where things start to go off the rails. Here's the first big flashing red light. In just one quarter of 2021, Zillow went on a shopping spree and bought nearly 10,000 homes. But they only managed to sell about 3,000. They were buying houses like crazy but couldn't get them off their books, leaving them sitting on this massive, incredibly expensive pile of houses. So why were they buying so many houses? Well, to put it simply, they were overpaying. A lot. Zillow consistently paid more for homes than its competitors did. Because they were so obsessed with hitting that growth target, their algorithm was basically told to overbid just to win deals, while other companies using similar tech stayed disciplined. And this chart, wow, this chart tells the whole broken story. Their revenue was shooting through the roof, which looked great on paper, but their losses were climbing even faster. The more houses they bought, the more money they literally set on fire. It was a completely unsustainable death spiral. The end came fast. On November 2nd, 2021, the company just pulled the plug. The damage was immense. A $421 million loss in a single quarter. A quarter of the entire company laid off, and a jaw-dropping $40 billion drop in the company's value. The $20 billion dream went up in smoke. So, that brings us back to our big question. Was it really just the algorithm's fault? Now that we've seen the spectacular collapse, let's do the postmortem and really dig into the deeper reasons why this whole AI bet went so wrong.
Okay, so here's the crucial difference. The official story says, an unpredictable market broke our algorithm. Simple, but the real story is a lot more nuanced. It wasn't just that the market was unpredictable. It was that Zillow had a flawed business strategy that took the AI's small weaknesses and magnified them into a complete catastrophe. The core technical problem here actually has a name. It's called concept drift. It's a classic issue in AI. Basically, Zillow's AI was trained on tons of data from a red-hot housing market where prices only went up. But when the market started to cool off and change direction, the patterns the AI had learned were suddenly useless. It was basically trying to drive a car by looking only in the rearview mirror.
So what really went wrong? It was this toxic combination of things. Yes, the technology was flawed, it couldn't adapt, but that flaw was supercharged by a business strategy that valued growth over everything else, including common sense, and holding it all together was a simple lack of experience. Zillow was a tech company trying to play in the messy, physical world of home flipping.
All right, so let's break down each of those three failures, because understanding how the technology, the strategy, and the people all collided here is the key to learning from Zillow's $500 million mistake.
Here's the 4-step recipe for disaster. Step 1, set a wildly aggressive, almost impossible goal that forces the whole system to move way too fast. Step 2, take the human experts, the guardrails, out of the loop. Early on, real people check the AI's offers, but to hit those crazy growth targets, that oversight got scaled way back. Step 3, completely ignore that you're a media company, not a home flipper with on-the-ground expertise. And Step 4, watch as that combination turns tiny little pricing mistakes into $100 million losses.
And here's the real smoking gun. Zillow wasn't the only one doing this. Its competitors were using similar AI technology, but they survived, and some even thrived during this exact same period. The critical difference wasn't the algorithm, it was the business strategy and the operational discipline that they wrapped around the technology. And this brings us to what I think is the most important takeaway from all of this. This isn't just a story about real estate. It's a universal lesson about the most critical and most overlooked part of any AI project.
I love this quote from Boston Consulting Group because it just hits the nail on the head. We get so focused on the 10%, the algorithm, the fancy code, but a successful AI transformation is overwhelmingly about the other 90%, and mostly the 70% that is people, the culture, the strategy, the human judgment. The technology is just a tool.
So what are the big lessons here for any of us? First, make sure your AI is aligned with real, sensible business goals, not just innovation for the sake of it. Second, don't try to replace the humans. Use AI to support them. Their expertise is crucial. Third, you have to deeply understand the business problem first. And finally, and this is the big one from Zillow, strategy is king. A bad strategy will break even the most brilliant AI.
And that leaves us with this final big question. We all know AI is becoming a part of every business, every industry. The technology is only going to get better and more powerful. The real challenge, the one Zillow failed to solve, isn't about the code. It's about us. As we integrate these powerful new tools into everything we do, how do we make sure we get the human part right?